Jewel back with another super cool astrology video. And I want to talk about the square between Venus and Uranus in the birth chart. What happens when we have this exciting fellow going on. So, Venus is how we love. It's our social nature, our love nature, what we find to be beautiful, what we find to be artistic, what we find to be aesthetically pleasing, our sense of beauty, our sense of refinement and sensuality, what makes us feel good physically, what looks good to the eyes, what feels good to the touch, what tastes good, because it's also a Taurian thing. So when we've got Uranus going on in the birth chart, Uranus is always going to be about getting to do one's own thing, freedom, letting the chains of societal expectation fall away so that we can be something free of that. It also represents societies in general and the collective thought of that. And it's about our impulses and what is really truly in the moment. And so it's also something that's about forward thinking. It's a non-traditional expression. And so when these two are meeting in a square, this is an interesting aspect to live with because it indicates a certain amount of friction between somebody's love nature and their understanding of their freedom nature. So Venus is also representative of our built securities, the securities that we bring into our lives through forms, through creating forms. This is why it, rules that second house of our income and our securities that come through our tangible things and our earned income. Our savings is there. And so that's also money. We'll have a different lesson on money someday. So when these two are meeting in a square, there is going to be some amount of risk that is infused into what they love, into their love lives, a lot of times into what they do for a living. And so it's an exciting square to live with because it makes for a somewhat unpredictable love life. They draw to them exciting experiences in their lives. And experience is a big word for them. Getting as many experiences as they can, especially when it comes to their love or sexual nature, is really going to be important for somebody that has this square. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not monogamous. A lot of people are who have the square. We can have other things going on in the chart that enforce that. A lot of people who have this square, if they're really, really, really being honest with themselves, are actually not monogamous. If they're really, really honest with themselves. So it is a process of uncovering for them what unique expressions work when it comes to their love nature. Because their love nature is going to be something that is likely very different from the culture or the society that they were raised in, or they come from, or they exist in, because Uranus represents societies, Venus is how and what we love, squares are aspects of friction and learning. And so they get nervous and insecure if they are in a situation that is too predictable, calm, traditional, take your pick. It's going to be individual. Now, if you look at this description on the internet or in a cookbook, astrology interpretation manual, anything like that, it's going to indicate that these people don't have traditional or monogamous relationships. That's not the case. They don't have traditional ideas of how they want to be loved. No, there's different levels of that. But there is going to be something that is somewhat rebellious against whatever social structure that they have been raised in. They are learning individuality. They are learning to taste what it is they like, they love. And to do that, a lot of times we have to go against the grain, because just because you're raised in a certain soup pot doesn't mean you're of that soup. And sometimes we figure this out, usually when we're a little bit older and it isn't so important to conform and be part of the group, and we start to learn who we are. So this is one where there's a part of them that is always going to feel somewhat not totally committed. They're afraid of being smothered or eaten up or controlled. And so they're trying to create space in their relationships. And sometimes it's through unconventional means. Sometimes it's through unconventional relationships. People that have the square, not all the time, but a lot of times, don't mind living in separate households. They don't mind relationships that allow for them to have a lot of their own life. So they do have a propensity for attracting partners that have a very strong friendship quality to them. And a lot of times they'll complain about this too. I've known many, many women with the square that feel like they're married to their brother, or feel like they're married to their best friend, and lack a sense of a feeling of real sexual attraction. When something happens in the relationship, when they reach some kind of unconventional agreement, or they come to some kind of understanding, or there's some exploration into what it is, the woman is truly as an individual, even if it's a very traditional monogamous relationship, there is a opening up a lot of times in the love nature, because all of a sudden there is this sense that the pressure is off. And they enjoy this element of risk. So where most people are going to be extremely uncomfortable with even the thought of a relationship that is not completely traditional in nature, because that's what most of the population is looking for, is that more, male, female, I work, you stay home, and that's somewhat changing and flip-flopping, but generally the fantasy is that narrative of, I do the providing, you do the caretaking, it's going to be this romantic, traditional back and forth interplay, and that doesn't sit well when we have this square. We may have other things. I mean, we may have like a rockin' traditional moon going on here. But there is an element in this person that has the square that is going to want to give rise to some kind of non-traditional expression. When they do that, this creates the element of security that they're looking for. So in creating the insecurity, which is what most people would consider insecure, to them it's not. To them it works because it allows, it gives them that perception of space within that committed relationship. And they usually are good at attracting partners that do have strong friendship qualities to them. So many times their relationships can survive if it's not an opening up, then it's a reassessment or a renegotiation of the terms of the relationship, even if it is a very conventional relationship. There's going to be a lot of people that have this square that are in conventional relationships, but it's going to be their version of unconvention within convention. Do you see what I'm saying here? Not everybody's going to live on a commune that has this square. There's people in suburbia that have this one, and you wouldn't even know it. So they're looking for a life that allows for friendship, understanding, space, and freedom, and love. And there can be a lot of conflict in finding that for them. They can be more affair prone. That does not mean that everybody that has the square has affairs. That does not mean that. And it's unfair to judge somebody who has this square that way. You have to consider everything within the birth chart. It can lead to more of those instances in behavior because of the way that they are trying to express their needs. There's a way that they are trying to create a sense of freedom within what they already have. And so it is a complicated love nature that we've got going on here. And generally it's one where it does contribute to more selfishness within relationships. There isn't a lot of ability to compromise when we have this particular square. If they are with a partner that they feel is allowing their love nature in all of its unconventionality and bizarreness and impulsiveness to be expressed, that can go a long way actually to having the person who has this square be very willing, be very allowing to compromise, be very allowing in that relationship, where otherwise they're not, because there's always going to be this feeling that I have to get mine, or I have to make sure that I'm holding back enough or keeping back enough so that I can fulfill my love needs, or so that I can not be robbed by you or not be controlled by you somehow. There is a certain thinking that accompanies the square that actually denies the partner that the person has this square with truly being loved if that partner of the person who has this square is not being truly and significantly allowing when it comes to what the needs are of the person who has the square. Does that make sense? That there's a selfishness that if they're with a partner that can be selfless, can cause the person who has the square to respond as selfless also. Where as long as they're in a relationship where they feel that there's any amount of trappage, that's a word, because I have Virgo Mercury right on the ascendant. I say it's a word, so it is. As long as there's any amount of trappage going on here, they are going to be holding back somehow, or they are going to be withholding. This is a square that leads to massive withholding in relationships. It does. Admit it. Admit it's hard. It's hard. I'll give you a minute. I'll give you a minute. It's hard. I know. You can withhold significantly. That does not have to be the case. If you can create for yourself a relationship that allows for your freedom of expression, this opens the door to feeling truly giving and to true sharing. There is a bit of a distance that is associated with the love natures of the people who have this square. That doesn't have to be there if we are in a relationship that is allowing. Now, there's going to be different definitions of what allowing is. That's part of the beauty of Uranus. It's up to you. It's not up to any cookbook astrology interpretations. It's up to you. This one is really about truly exploring honestly what your needs are, making those needs known, and being able to exist in a relationship that is very honest. Uranus is an honest influence. It really is. Where Neptune is like massive dishonesty, Pluto as well, we can have a lot of dishonesty going there. Uranus is really about telling it like it is. And that's a lot of the lesson here when we have this square, is we just need to accept what we are, and we need to tell it like it is, and we need to be that. We need to create for ourselves a partnership that allows for that, and that's when we can be really responsive, because we don't feel like I'm a round peg in I'm a square peg in a round hole. Do you see? You can have it all, but this one is really about figuring out enough the quirks and nuances within yourself that allow you to get into that position. Because with this square, we do tend to try to stuff ourselves into relationships or to situations that don't fit us, and then try to change that relationship or that situation or that person after the fact. It's really symptomatic of this square. And that really doesn't work. Because when we try to change our partners, the only thing our partners change is partners. And you have a lot to offer with this square. It's, again, getting to the root of that insecurity, which is that you need a certain amount of excitement or insecurity. It's not funny. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please subscribe to my channel. You can find me on the internet at truthandaspectastrology.com. Yes, I do private consultation. I'm mainly a relationship and intimacy astrologer, but you can contact me for all types of readings under the sun. You can find me at Truth and Aspect Astrology on Facebook, Instagram, other social media. And I'll be back super soon with more super cool videos. Bye-bye.